Good afternoon, Dr. Shafi. എല്ലാവരും ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. റോമൻ സാർ ഉണ്ട്.
Okay, then we can start, I think.
Dr. Nitin,
Yes.
start ചെയ്യാലോ.
Dr. Nitin, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, sir.
Respected Chairman, Dr. Nitin George, Dean Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Kerala University, Dr. Shafi K, Director LBS Center, Dr. Abdul
This
Rahman,
call is now being recorded.
Research Scholar Mrs. Jisu Elsa Jacob, and dear friends, colleagues. So now, as per the Kerala University order, Mrs. Jisu Elsa Jacob will be presenting her PhD thesis on studies on EEG-based diagnosis of encephalopathy using chaotic and other nonlinear methods. So Chairman, as the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kerala University has nominated Dr. Nitin George as the Chairman of this committee. Dr. Nitin V. George is currently working as Telco Chair, Associate Professor in Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Gandhinagar, Gujarat. He did his BTech from TKM College of Engineering and MTech from National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, and PhD from IIT Bhubaneswar in 2012. His research areas include active noise control, adaptive signal processing, assistive learning devices, and psychoacoustics. He joined IIT Gandhinagar as Assistant Professor in 2012. He served as Visiting Research Fellow of Curtin University, Australia in 2017. Earlier, he was Postdoctoral Fellow in IIT Bhubaneswar and Visiting Graduate Student University of Western Ontario, Canada. That is from 2008 to 2009. He has many peer-reviewed journal publications and international conferences to his credit. He is the recipient of many awards. Excellence in Institution Building Award of IIT Gandhinagar 2017-18, Indo-Australian Early and Mid-Career Research Fellowship of 2016-17, Inspire Faculty Award 2013 to 2018, and JCP Fellowship 2008-9, and Institute Silver Medal NIT Rourkela 2009. On behalf of entire participant and on behalf of University of Kerala, I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Nitin George to this function. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Then we have Dr. M. Abdul Rahman, the head of LBS Center and is Director of LBS Center of Science and Technology, Trivandrum. He served as the first Pro Vice Chancellor of APJ Abdul Kalam Technological University, Kerala, and he was the Managing Director of CAPT, Trivandrum. He is also the former Director, AICT. Dr. Rahman served as Director, VHSC, Government of Kerala. Having joined in university and founder PVC, has been at the forefront of bringing in some radical changes in the academics and administration of KTU. He brought transparency and accountability in the administration through the implantation of e-governance in the university, the first time in Kerala. The online system at KTU was developed under his leadership. On behalf of all participants here, I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Abdul Rahman, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Then Dr. Shafi K. is recently nominated as the Dean Faculty of Engineering and Technology, University of Kerala. And he is a professor of Mechanical Engineering, TKM College of Engineering. Dr. Shafi belongs to 91 batch of Mechanical Engineering, TKM College, Kollam. He did his MTech from IIT Madras and PhD from University of Kerala in the free field of cryogenics. He is working at TKM College of Engineering since 1994. Dr. Shafi was the principal investigator of various funded research or projects funded by Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences, Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India, and TechUp Phase 2. Dr. Shafi is currently Dean Research at TKMC. He has many peer-reviewed journal publications and very good researcher, and many publications are there to his credit. On behalf of University of Kerala, I welcome Dr. Shafi sir to this function. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind words.
And today, the research scholar is Mrs. Jisu Elsa Jacob. She is currently working as Assistant Professor in Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, SCT College of Engineering, Papanakot. She joined for PhD in University of Kerala under my guidance December 2016, and her hard work helped her to complete the PhD work within 3 years. Only because of other aspects it was delayed, and she was full-time working on this. Though she was a part-time research scholar, she did excellent work on this particular project thesis title, and has very good publications, SCA and SC Expanded Index journals to her credit. So I welcome Mrs. Jisu to this function. So I take this opportunity to welcome all participants, professors to this function, and now I transfer the mic to Dr. Nitin V. George, Chairman, to take over the proceedings. Sir, please.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Gobamar, for the introduction. Yeah, let me also welcome all of you to this open defense. I think I will directly go to Jisu. I think you could start the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, dear sir. A very good afternoon to all. Speaker. Thank you, dear sir. A very good afternoon, Paul. I am Jisu Elsa Jacob, and I am extremely privileged to present my PhD thesis work on the topic Studies on EEG-based diagnosis of encephalopathy using chaotic and other nonlinear analysis. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, you're audible.
Oh, okay, sir. This is the outline of my presentation. Starting with an introduction to the major topics in this study, I will be explaining a brief review of literature, research gap identified, study objectives, materials and methods, analysis techniques done in this study and the results and discussion, and finally conclusion. Now let's move on to the study with a brief introduction to the major topics. Electroencephalogram or EEG is a signal that records the electrical activity of the brain by means of electrodes kept on the scalp of a person. This is a sample of EEG recording taken from Medical College Trivandrum as part of our study. This figure shows how EEG is being recorded. International 1020 electrode system is being used. Now let me introduce the disease that we analyzed in this study. Encephalopathy means affliction of the brain. It is a disease state in which higher brain activities are affected due to metabolic disturbances. It happens without any structural abnormalities in the brain. Metabolic homeostasis greatly influences the neuron activities and working of the brain. So, any abnormality or variation of the metabolic systems or electrolytic imbalances can lead to brain disorders. The clinical features vary from very mild symptom like mild memory loss to very severe one like dementia, seizure, coma, and even death. These are the various types of encephalopathy. Encephalopathy caused due to liver dysfunction is called hepatic encephalopathy. Encephalopathy caused due to acute or chronic renal failure is called uremic encephalopathy, and encephalopathy due to difference in the sugar level can lead to hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. So in short, all these electrolytic imbalances can lead to encephalopathy. Thus, encephalopathy can be considered as a secondary neurological disease where brain is not primarily affected. And now let's see how medical practitioners deduce encephalopathy from a given EEG. The first pointer of encephalopathy in EEG is EEG slowing. There will be a generalized slowing. That slow trend is normally identified through visual examination by neurologist. And second one is the presence of a triphasic wave in encephalopathic EEG. It is a particular pattern which is a large positive peak which is both preceded and followed by smaller negative deflections. This is a common pattern in encephalopathic EEG, even though it's not present in all cases of encephalopathy. Next, chaotic analysis. Almost all the natural or real world systems exhibit a chaotic or non-linear character rather than deterministic behavior. It seems random, but it is not exactly random as it is controlled by a certain rules, which can be mathematically described by a set of equations. This is termed as deterministic chaos, and almost all the biosignals exhibit this chaotic and nonlinear character, as physiological systems, including heart and brain, are chaotic, nonlinear dynamical systems. The two common chaotic features are correlation dimension and positive Lyapunov exponent. These features give a measure of the complexity and chaoticity for the dynamic system. Many nonlinear features have been defined. Common or most prominent nonlinear features include fractal dimensions and entropies. So this was a brief introduction on the area of my study that can help me in conveying my work properly. In the next section, I will give a brief review of literature. One of the major developments in the area of chaos theory was in 1963 when Edward Lorenz developed the first chaotic attractor, and he explained the trajectory divergence, and he gave a mathematical explanation also for this unpredictable behavior. And he also pointed out that sensitive dependence on initial conditions. Later, in 1981, Flores-Takens developed an algorithm which is called Takens embedding theorem, where he clearly gave a method for state space reconstruction. This theorem permits the researchers to do research in various fields regarding chaotic analysis. In 1983, Grasberger and Procaccia proposed an algorithm for calculating correlation dimension, which was a breakthrough, as this made it possible to apply chaos theory to any set of time series. And in 1985, Wolf et al. Developed an algorithm for calculating Lyapunov exponent, which gives a rate at which the trajectories will diverge. In 1993, Rosenstein gave a faster computation algorithm which can calculate the largest Lyapunov exponent. The term fractal was used first by the mathematician in 1975, Benoit Mandelbrot. And word fractal comes from the Latin word fractus, which means broken. It is a geometry of roughness, and it enables to see patterns across different scales and reveals a strange kind of symmetry in all the scales. In 1988, Higuchi and Katz developed algorithms for calculating fractal dimension. In 1991, Steve Pincus developed the algorithm for calculating approximate entropy, which gives a measure of regularity and predictability of time series data. In 2004, Richman and Moorman developed or modified that algorithm and defined sample entropy by making it less biased. And coming to the application of these chaotic and nonlinear analysis in EEG signals, these were the earliest studies reported. In 1986, Bablayans and Destex reported nonlinear analysis of seizure and reported a loss of complexity. And decrease of LLP was reported during epileptic seizure by Isemides et al. And in 2006, Kannathal explored the different variations in entropies between normal and epileptic subjects. And in 2008, Hodgett Adeli reported chaotic analysis in Alzheimer's disease, and he proved the effectiveness in AD diagnosis. And for getting study approval, Medical College Research Committee suggested us to do an initial study in epilepsy to verify the results which are already reported in the literature, as encephalopathy is a new area to do similar analysis. So first part of our study was to do chaotic analysis of EEG in epilepsy. And we got the results that CD and LLE was lowest during the seizure activity, and it is higher for interictal phase. Interictal is the time between two seizure attacks, and the highest value was obtained with normal EEG. So this was a result of clinical significance as it arises the possibility of epilepsy diagnosis during interictal phase. And we could publish this in Analog Integrated Circuits and Signal Processing Journal. In 2013, a neurologist, Dr. Roland Fail, reported the lack of specificity of EEG in encephalopathy diagnosis, and he also noted the lack of systematic studies regarding EEG features in metabolic encephalopathies, as most of the neuro-related work was concentrated in epilepsy and neurodegenerative disease like dementia. So with these literatures, we identified the research gap. The research gap is the efficacy of chaotic and nonlinear features of EEG signal has not been evaluated in investigating a secondary neurological disorder, specifically encephalopathy. The possibility of encephalopathy diagnosis with various machine learning techniques using chaotic and nonlinear features has not been explored. Thus, moving on to the aims and objectives of the study. First, perform chaotic and other nonlinear analysis on the EEG signal and study those parameters in encephalopathy. Second is to analyze the EEG subbands and corresponding energies for normal and encephalopathic patients. Third is to identify the parameters that have significant difference between encephalopathy group and healthy controls, and thereby explore the EEG biomarkers for encephalopathy. And fourth is to evaluate various classifiers and their performance parameters for identifying encephalopathy based on these features. Next, moving on to the materials and methods of the study. The EEG data needed for the study was taken from EEG Lab, Department of Neurology, Medical College Trivandrum. And we got the prior approval from Research Committee and Ethics Committee of Medical College. And the study sample, all the analysis was done in 300 encephalopathic EEGs and 300 EEGs of normal healthy subjects. And participants involved were 30 encephalopathic patients and 30 normal healthy subjects. And out of the encephalopathy cases, 12 patients were of hepatic, 10 were of uremic, and 8 were of hypoglycemic cases. Coming to the tools used for the analysis, MATLAB was used for feature extraction techniques, SPSS software was utilized for statistical analysis, and Python was used for implementing the various machine learning algorithms. Coming to the flow diagram of the study. The first step of the study was recruiting the encephalopathy cases and the normal healthy controls for the study. After recruiting proper cases for the study, the neurologists have verified and validated the data. Such data were saved in ASCII format. Then, pre-processing was done using a filtering technique known as LPF-TVD filtering, which is proposed by Selesnik et al. In 2014, which was proposed to be performing very well in biomedical signals. So, LPF-TVD filtering was used for pre-processing. And the clean EEG signal is proceeded to discrete wavelet transform or DWT to generate the EEG subbands. EEG subbands, I'll explain later. Mainly the four subbands are delta, theta, alpha, and beta. So now we have the EEG signal as well as the EEG subbands. And then we proceeded to feature extraction block. It was done in 4 sections. One is chaotic analysis. Second is fractal analysis. Third is entropies, and fourth was energies of subbands. After the feature extraction step, we proceeded to statistical analysis. First part was descriptive statistics, where the measures of central tendency like mean, median, and spread of values was done by plotting, box plot, etc. Then we checked the normality of the data, and for normal features, we proceeded to students t-test. And for not normal distribution, we did man-Whitney U-test to identify the features that have significant difference between the disease group and the normal group. After that, we proceeded to classification. The 3 classifiers were employed in the study. One is support vector machine or SVM. Next is random forest and multi-layer perceptron. In addition to the classifiers, we added PCA and ICA, which is principal component analysis and independent component analysis, which are the two-dimensionality reduction techniques which can improve the performance of the classifier. Proceeding to the first section of our analysis method, that is chaotic analysis. As we saw in review of literature, in early 90s itself, the chaotic and nonlinear character of brain and EEG signals have been reported. Brain is a chaotic system, and hence the brain signals or EEG signals can be explored in a better way with chaotic and nonlinear analysis techniques rather than with linear time and frequency domain methods. First step in chaotic analysis is reconstruction of the phase space, which is a geometric representation of the trajectory of its variables over time. This method is given by Taken's embedding theorem, and this helps us to plot the trajectories and the state evolution from which we can get a measure of complexity and chaoticity of the system. This is the equation used for reconstruction of phase space, where M is the embedding dimension and lambda is the embedding delay. So we can reconstruct the phase space from a one-dimensional time series, which is represented by X of n. And as I explained earlier, correlation dimension is a feature that gives a measure of complexity, and largest Lyapunov exponent gives a measure of chaoticity of the signal. And this is a pictorial representation or illustration of state space reconstruction from the one-dimensional time series. We convert it to, here it is given for 3-dimension. For a visual understanding, we gave it as a three-dimensional phase space. And CD, correlation dimension, it is one of the chaotic feature which gives a measure of the complexity of the system. And this is a mathematical equation. Correlation sum gives a probability that 2 points in the state space are distant r or less. And from that, we plot log CR versus log R, and the slope of the linear region will give correlation dimension, which will give a measure of the complexity of the dynamic system that we are analyzing. Similarly, largest Lyapunov exponent is a chaotic feature, and it is a measure of the extent at which trajectories are diverging, and positive Lyapunov exponent shows that the system has chaotic nature. And Rosenstein's algorithm was used in this study for calculating LLE, and this is the mathematical equation. Coming to the results, when we compare mean values, we can find that both CD and LLE values have decreased significantly during the encephalopathic state, which shows that the brain working and its complexity as well as chaoticity is drastically reduced during the disease phase. And statistical tests prove that both these features are highly significant, as the p-value was less than 0.001. And this is a box plot representing the distribution of CD and LLE values, where that black line represents the median value. And these are the EEG subbands generated by discrete wavelet transform. And the lowest one is delta. It is in the range of 0.5 to 4 hertz. Then theta subband in the range of 4 to 8 hertz. Then alpha from 8 to 13, and beta from 13 to 30 hertz. These were the 4 subbands we generate using discrete wavelet transform. And this is how the DWT is utilized for generating the EEG subbands. As the sampling frequency was fixed for 500 hertz, FM was taken as 250 hertz, and 6 levels of DWT was done to get the proper frequency range for the EEG subbands. And these are the CD and LLE values of EEG as well as all its subbands. And except CD beta, you can see the P value. Except CD beta, all the values were less than 0.001, representing very high significant difference between the disease group and the normal group. Next, coming to the classifier performance. Before that, I need to explain some terms, and that is TP, TN, FP, and FN. And the red part represents the disease cases, and green represents the normal cases. And TP and TN are the cases which are correctly identified by the classifier. TP means the disease cases which are correctly identified as disease, and TN or true negative means the normal cases which are correctly identified as normal cases. And false positive means they are normal cases which are wrongly identified by the classifier as disease. And false negative means it is a disease case which is not diagnosed properly and it is misclassified as a normal case. So these are the four terms. Based on this, we can define accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity, which are the common performance parameters of a classifier. So accuracy gives the ratio of correctly identified cases to the total number of cases. Sensitivity gives a proportion of the number of correctly identified disease cases, and specificity gives a proportion of correctly identified normal cases. Accuracy gives a measure, but in case of disease diagnosis, sensitivity as well as specificity is equally important. So to compare both sensitivity and specificity, we can plot sensitivity on y-axis and 1 minus specificity on x-axis, and it's an ROC curve, and we calculate the area under the curve as a measure of classifier performance. So sensitivity and specificity is high means the ideal point is that left top point, which gives an AUC of 100%. Coming to the performance of classifier with the chaotic features, the highest accuracy was obtained with the SVM PCA combination, and without any dimensionality reduction techniques, that is PC and ICA, random forest gave a very high accuracy of 89.833. And this work was published in Neurology Research International. Next is fractal analysis of EEG. Fractal can be thought of as an object which, when magnified, it reveals the smaller features that appear to resemble the whole object. A very simple example is fern leaf, and fractal means they are objects or fluctuations that possess a form of self-similarity in different scales. Brain consists of millions of neurons, and almost all the physiological signals have that similar pattern, self-similar pattern, and can be assessed using fractal analysis. And thus an inherent self-similar property is expected for all physiological signals, including EEG signal. And fractal dimension is also a measure of complexity of the signal. And this is just a mathematical basis, and if P represents the original object and N represents the scale, you can represent P is equal to N raised to D, where D is the measure of fractal dimension. And different algorithms are available, and the commonly employed algorithm is Higuchi's fractal dimension, which directly does the computation based on its definition. So it is divided into various scales, and for each scale the length of the curve is taken and its average value is taken. The mathematical equation is shown here, and thus we get for different values of k, we get LK, the average curve length, and we plot log of LK versus log of 1 by k, and from that plot slope we can get a measure of Higuchi's fractal dimension. It's computationally much complex, but still most of the literatures show that more accurate results obtained with Higuchi's fractal dimension. The same thing is done in a simpler algorithm with CATS fractal dimension. So comparing the two algorithms, CATS is much simpler to compute, still accuracy is higher for Higuchi's fractal dimension. And these are the mathematical equations for calculating CATS fractal dimension. And results were coinciding with those we obtained with chaotic features, that is both fractal dimension values were significantly reduced during the disease state. And coming to the mean values, when Higuchi FD was calculated for EEG and the subbands, all the values were highly significant as p-values less than 0.001. And coming to CATS value, they were significant except for theta subbands. And this is the classifier performance value. And out of the various features, the highest accuracy was obtained with the fractal dimension features. The value was 97.167, and that was obtained when SVM is combined with ICA combination. And the RF without PC and ICA gave an accuracy of 96.833. These results were published in one journal. And coming to the entropy. Entropy calculates the randomness in a signal, and it gives a tendency of the system to reach different states rather than continuing in a few chosen states. So higher the entropy means higher the entropy means randomness is higher and predictability is less. And approximate entropy was one entropy, and this is the mathematical equation for calculating the entropy. And here phi m, what in simple the algorithm, what it is doing is we are counting the self-similar vectors of length m, that is given by phi m of r, and then the length is increased to m plus 1, and again the number of self-similar patterns. The probability of that two vectors are similar, that is taken. So if a time series is predictable or more, it is not random, what will happen is when we increase the length from m to m plus 1, the variation will be less. So that less variation means lesser entropy. But when length is increased from m to m plus 1, if there is greater variation, that shows that entropy is higher and that particular time series is less predictable. More unpredictable and randomness is higher. So these are the mathematical equations used for computing approximate entropy. Next was sample entropy. The algorithm is almost similar, but in comparing the patterns, self-similarity was also included in approximate entropy, which added to a bias, and that was removed in this algorithm, sample entropy. And this was the methodology after getting the filtered EEG epochs. And in this method, we actually did two decomposition techniques. In addition to the discrete wavelet transform DWT to generate the EEG subband, we added empirical mode decomposition, which is a nonlinear decomposition technique, which generates the decomposed components, which are called IMFs or intrinsic mode functions. And many number of IMFs can be generated. And for this study, for comparison purpose, as we have 4 EEG subbands, we the first 4 IMFs. So EEG subbands as well as the first IMFs were taken, and then entropies were calculated. Then proceeded to classification. And these were the results of approximate entropy and sample entropy. And all these results gave this very same conclusion that complexity, chaoticity, randomness, everything decreased during the encephalopathic state. And p-values were showing that both appen and sample, both approximate entropy and sample entropy were highly significant in the two groups. And these are the values of entropies of the EEG subbands, and we can find that all these values were highly significant. These are the values corresponding to the entropies of IMFs, which are generated using empirical mode decomposition. And for simplicity, I just compared SVM performance, because out of the 3 classifiers, SVM gave the highest performance. So to compare DWT and empirical mode decomposition, I just added the classification values of SVM alone. And highest accuracy was obtained with SVM ICA combination in both cases, but comparing DWT and EMD, higher accuracy was obtained with the discrete wavelet transform itself. Though EMD performed well, DWT gave a higher accuracy of 90%. And these results were published in Neurophysiology and Analog Integrated Circuits and Signal Processing. Coming to the last section of analysis, that is energies of EEG subbands. This was the methodology. After getting the EEG and pre-processing by LPF-TVD technique, then subbands were generated by discrete wavelet transform. Then we did calculated the relative energies of EEG subbands and then proceeded with classification. This was not chaotic or nonlinear analysis. But in medical scenario, they use FFT to get the frequency subbands delta, theta, alpha, and beta, and they compare the relative energies of the subbands. So to compare it with our time frequency domain technique, we did that. And the as I explained earlier, we did a 6-level decomposition to get the corresponding frequencies of delta, theta, alpha, and beta, which are the EEG subbands defined. And this is how we calculated the energies from approximation and detail coefficients, and relative energy was taken. Then the results, it's seen that beta energy, beta subband, that energy decreased from 14 to 2.688 during disease state. Alpha corresponds to the normal active state of a person. So in normal it was 27.035. It reduced to 9.55 during encephalopathy. And theta energy, it is not significant actually, as p value is 0.434. Coming to delta energy, the mean value in delta energy corresponds to a deep sleep state. So for normal normal people, delta is comparatively slower in the awake state, but during encephalopathy, it was higher of 67.22. So here the result already given in medical literatures was the evidence increase of delta and decrease of alpha and beta, and that we could get with our time frequency DWT technique also. And coming to the classifier, 91.667% accuracy was obtained with the SVM. SVM ICA combination that is given in the middle part of the plot. And the results is lower alpha and lower beta subband energies in encephalopathy cases and higher delta subband energy in encephalopathy cases. And this was published in Neurology Research International. Coming to the conclusion of our study, potential markers in EEG, we evaluated the major chaotic features CD and LLE, fractal dimensions, Higuchi's fractal dimension and Katz fractal dimension, entropies, approximate entropy and sample entropy. And in addition to all these features are found to be very good and statistically very significant in comparing the two groups. And EMD technique was also added, which can be utilized for signal decomposition, even though better, higher classifier performance was obtained with the DWT technique. And just for a comparison of various features, feature importance was just, the features were just ranked using random forest algorithm. And we could find that subset of all the features, that is chaotic features, CDLLE, then fractal dimension, entropies, subband energies, all are equally relevant in the diagnosis of this particular disease, encephalopathy. And the performance of classifiers based on different features are just listed here, and almost all these features gave even the minimum accuracy is 85%, and that was obtained with EMD entropy. So comparing the DWT based decomposition and the nonlinear and chaotic features, the accuracy was 90 and above, and the highest accuracy was obtained with the fractal dimension values, which was 97.167. So with this, I conclude my presentation. These are the list of my publications. The conference presentations. These are the references. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Very nice presentation. I would now invite participants to ask questions if they have any. Yeah, any questions from anybody? Any questions from other members? So am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, any question from anybody? fine. I think there are no questions from other participants. So I will ask a couple of questions. I mean, 3-4 questions. So once, can you comment on the theta energy difference in slide 74?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Can you comment on the theta energy difference which we are comparing in slide 74? So there
Okay.
you are not seeing a difference, no? So what is the reason why you are not seeing a difference in the theta energy?
Sir,
Can you go to slide 74?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, sir, actually in the initial part we were concentrating only on the chaotic and nonlinear features, but medically encephalopathy is detected with this frequency slowing. So they don't comment about theta energy, they just go for this generalized slowing pattern. So they were not that specific about the theta or alpha. Generalized slowing was more pronounced there. So we did discrete Wheeler transform to get each subband, and we calculated the relative energy. And we actually asked the neurologist to comment about these results, and they were saying like alpha and beta corresponds to the active state of a normal person. So for naturally, the transition phase is the theta phase. So delta means that deep sleep or almost that delirium state. So in most of the encephalopathy cases, they have that delirium state. So at that time, delta is more prominent. So that's why that much evident difference from 37 to 67% for encephalopathic patients. And while in case of alpha and beta corresponds to a highly awake state of a normal person. So that energy is significantly reduced. So that was what they suggested about theta energy not being that significant.
Fine. Yeah. So what was the motivation for using EMD? Because you were already happy with the wavelet DWT approach, correct?
Yes, sir. When we were referring various literatures regarding EEG analysis, some papers were doing studies with the EMD alone. So we were actually proceeding with the discrete wavelet transform itself. So for the third section, we just thought of comparing both the decomposition techniques to check if EMD can give much better results. Because being a nonlinear decomposition technique, we wanted to check we wanted to compare how EMD will be performing compared to DW.
Fine. So can you comment on the complexity of the two methods? If you use a DWT approach or if you use an EMD approach, which will be computationally complex?
It was should I explain the EMD technique?
No, algorithm is fine. I am saying if I want to implement both your approaches, the DWT approach and the EMD approach, in terms of computational complexity, if I look at the method, which method will be computationally less complex?
DWT will be comparatively less complex.
Okay. Fine. So can I not? Okay. Why do we use a DWT?
It's not clear. Question is not clear.
Yeah. Why do we use a DWT here? Can I use some other filter bank to do this operation?
Sir, in case of EEGs, that 4 subbands are very much of importance: delta, theta, alpha, and beta. So EEG subbands can be exactly that exact frequency range can be obtained with the DWT with proper levels of decomposition.
Fine.
And so mother wavelet here we use Dobishi's 4th order wavelet as the mother wavelet, and it is highly it is having very similar pattern with the EEG signal, and it can give very good results. So we followed with the data.
Okay. So can you comment on the phase space reconstruction which you mentioned in slide 33?
Yeah. How we have done it?
Yes. 33 slide.
Sir, I think I will explain.
Yeah, you can explain with this.
Here, this equation means Xn is a single one-dimensional time series. So in case of EEGs, we have 6,000 one EEG epoch means it consists of we took 12-second EEG epoch. So 500 sampling frequency means 500 into 12, we get 6,000 samples. So one EEG epoch simply means 6,000 data points in one epoch. So that is represented by Xn. So it is a one-dimensional signal, and what we have to do is we have to make it a higher, we have to map it to a higher dimensional phase space. So first thing is we need to find the optimum value of lambda and m. And optimum value of m or optimum value of embedding dimension is obtained by a method called false nearest neighbor method, where when we increase the value of m from 1 to 2, 2 to 3 like that, for different values of m, we plot the number of false nearest neighbors. And at one point of m, at one optimum value, the number of false neighbors will drastically reduce to 0. That point is taken as the optimum value of m for the corresponding dynamic system which we are analyzing. And false nearest neighbors means we are calculating the distance between the two initially close points. And false neighbors means when we increase the dimension, they just move apart. So that shows that they are not really neighbors, they are false neighbors. So that technique was used for calculating optimum value of m, and for our analysis, we got the value of m as 10. Then second one is lambda, which is time delay, and that is done using an average mutual information method, AMI method, where we calculate the mutual information for various points for different values of t. And at one point, mutual information value becomes minimum, and that corresponding minimum value tau is taken as the lambda is taken as the optimum value of time delay. So after calculating the optimum values of m and lambda, we can directly go to this phase space and then proceed with the computation of CD and LVD.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So what is your final recommendation? Means you have looked at several methods. What is your final recommendation?
To the best of our knowledge, this chaotic and nonlinear analysis of EEG is not at all done in encephalopathy. So first, when we discussed about this with neurologists, they were like asking, they wanted to know, because epilepsy and Alzheimer's, all these are primary neurological diseases and brain is affected. So it is like neurodegenerative disease. But this encephalopathy comes in a group where brain is not primarily affected. So they wanted to know if this chaotic and non-linear analysis is good for such a disease. So this is being the first phase, we analyzed almost all the major chaotic and non-linear features and found to be, all these features were found to be effective. So actually the future scope or extension of the study is to get sufficient samples for different types of encephalopathy each, and can proceed with the similar analysis.
Fine. So in your future work, you will have a classification with respect to different types of...
Definitely, sir. Okay. Different types of encephalopathy.
Fine. Yeah, I think I am done. Yeah. I'm done. Any question from anybody else? Yeah, I think I...
Jisu?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my hearty congratulations to Govamar sir for guiding Jisu on a very relevant topic. Jisu, your presentation was very nice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And actually, you are very lucky to have Govamar sir as your research.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir.
Because sir is a man of perfection, and that perfection we can see in all your slides. There is no room for asking questions or any mistakes like that. Okay. Govamar sir is a role model to all the research supervisors. We are able to learn a lot of things from Govamar sir. And we all know that sir has always taken a lot of pain for guiding his students, and sir's hardworking nature, it helps us scholars to come up with very high quality works. Okay. Sir, you're great, sir. Okay. And we the mechanical engineers thought that entropy is our own child. But seeing your slide 61, we actually we are confused because in mechanical engineering, entropy is used as an index to mark the inefficiency of a system. Here also you are using randomness of your system. And thank you for giving such an information to the mechanical engineers. Anyway, all the best. I'm not having any words to say. Great. Okay. So, hearty congratulations to both of you. And
Thank you, sir.
See the sir's hardworking nature. Actually, sirs, all the students were completed the thesis within 3 years. That itself shows how effectively trained the research scholars by sir. Okay. I know Ashwadi, Varsana, almost all the students. I know how they are saying that how effectively sir is utilizing their potential in guiding the students. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shafi. Thank you, Dr. Shafi, very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other comments from anybody?
I think we can move on to the next procedure. That is, the chairman has to declare whether the scholar has successfully defended the thesis and whether she is eligible for awarding PhD degree.
Sure. Yeah. So before that, let me also give some 2-3 comments. So what Professor Shafi told is absolutely right. There was perfection even in the thesis. It is not just in the presentation. When I read the thesis first time in 2020, somewhere in June, I think. Yeah. So that perfection is there, and good publications have come. Very good publications have come, and was very happy to see there is going to be social impact if you actually don't leave this at this point. Okay, so the future work may not be for other future people, it can be for you also to take it to the next level and make it practically useful. Okay, with that, let me conclude. So I declare that the candidate is recommended for awarding PhD degree of the University of Kerala. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, congratulations.
You should call Jisu as
Dr. Jisu.
Dr. Jisu.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Good work.
Dr. Jisu, and congratulations to your guide also. Sir.
Good to you. So we are in the last stage. Our chairman has declared that the candidate has been recommended for award of PhD by the University of Kerala. So let us conclude. So I'm very happy that Dr. Nitin Jovi George not only contributed in this final presentation, but in the thesis evaluation also, he did a very critical review of the thesis. Around 3 pages he has given remarks on the thesis. Thank you, sir, very much for your presence here and for the remarks that you have given about the thesis. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Nitin George.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
And Dr. Shafi has made very good comments about not only about the candidate but also about me. Dr. Shafi, you know that as far as the TKM college is concerned, the mechanical department is contributing a lot to the department. He's a researcher, he's a good teacher, and he's a very dedicated faculty. As far as Kerala University is concerned, he will be a good dean of Faculty of Engineering and Technology. Thank you, Dr. Shafi, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Then
Thank you, sir.
Professor Abdul Rahman, he was helping the research scholars in all the way possible for whatever help is, whatever service is required from the LBS Center, he is ready to provide. So thank you, Professor Abdul Rahman, sir, for your number. Dr. Anilad, sir, the previous dean, for giving good comments during the presentations, and Dr. Biju Kumar for the final our pre-submission seminar. So let me utilize this opportunity to thank Dr. Anilad sir and Dr. Biju Kumar. And now we have here professors are there, my colleagues are there, research scholars are there. I take this opportunity to thank everyone for your active participation. Thank you all. Thank you all. So this meeting can Dr. Nitin Gaurav can discuss a bit.
From university side,
So with the permission of chairman and others, all members. So So let me declare that this meeting is dispersed. Thank you very much.
So from university side,
Thank you all.
I thank Professor Nitin sir for sharing your time with us. Okay, thank you so much,
Thank you, sir.
Nitin sir.